Welcome to Raising Graceful Children. I'm your host, Brett Glover. Time, the great dilemma of parenthood. Relational time is so important. And in the Western world, we get caught up with ways of looking at the world that aren't that healthy. We get so busy and so rushed, and we're rushing around to fulfill all these roles when we miss out on the most important thing we could have is time. I remember I learnt this experience really strongly when I was pastoring, doing an interim pastorship of a church in Sydney. And in this particular church there was an Islander congregation of Tongans and also a part congregation of just Anglo-Saxon general Aussies in this congregation. There was two congregations in one, so to speak. And while this worked generally well on most occasions, we had this experience. This particular Sunday we had the Tongans taking the whole service. The Tongan part of the church was going to do the whole lot in their style of service. So I arrived to the church that morning and walked in, and everyone was there. I usually get there early, and I was setting up and make sure everything was okay and greeting different ones and saying hello, and as you do as in a pastoral sense. And everything was going fine till 5:02, and I started to panic. 5 minutes till the service started, and there was no one here. There was not one Islander, not one Tongan guy there, not one Tongan girl. There was no one there. And I was thinking to myself, this isn't good. And I started to get a bit nervous. I'm starting to panic. I'm thinking, I haven't prepared anything. I haven't got a song. I haven't got a message. I haven't got anything to fill in if this doesn't work. And I was getting very, very nervous at this point in time. I don't know whether any pastors are been in this situation, but if you haven't prepared anything for a service, you're flying by the seat of your pants. And I'm looking up my sleeve, can't find anything that I've stashed up my sleeve, no backup ideas. Here I was, caught unaware. There wasn't a Tongan in the service at start time. Not one. And I'm scratching my head and thinking, oh no, what am I going to do here? I'm looking at the congregation, mostly Anglo-Saxon Aussies, sitting there, and they're starting to fidget and starting to get agitated. They could see that something was going on. And I was starting to get a bit nervous about this. I was getting nervous, and I was thinking, oh boy, this isn't good. I looked across to old Bill, and he's snoring over in the corner, his head nodding backwards and forwards and bouncing up. I'm thinking, at least he's relaxed, that's a great thing. The rest of the congregation is starting to get edgy, You got Mabel over there in the corner reading the bulletin 1,000 times over from back to front so she could avoid talking to people. And then there's Kathy, she's sitting down flicking the pages so hard that you think they're going to catch fire in any moment. The nervous energy, and Jack over in the corner is moving and fidgeting so much I think he's a mechanical toy. It's not a nice experience. Everything's starting to go here, and it's starting to build and build and build. And there's some aggro people starting to get very angry and very fidgety. They're very annoyed. They're there that Sunday. They've gotten up early to come to church and nothing's on. They're not happy, and they're getting quite agitated at this and quite frustrated. John's over there stamping his foot on the ground as if it patterned, and it ends up in a stamp, then a stomp, and then an earthquake. The thing's starting to happen, things are starting to shake, and it's not going down too well, and I'm starting to get a bit nervous. Bit nervous is an understatement. Very nervous. I'm starting to panic. 10 past. Not one Islander in the service. 10 minutes past. And I can see all these hands going up with wristwatches like this, up and down, quarter past, 20 past. And I'm thinking, oh no, I'm going to have to do something here. And as I'm going to get, the first Tongan young man walks in the door. I said, I'm glad to see you. And he says, yeah, I'm glad. It's good to be here today, Pastor. I said, where's everyone else? Oh, they're coming. And a few more came in, half an hour late. I said, well, can we get going with the service? No, we can't start yet. So what do you mean you can't start? Well, there's Grandma Joe, and there's Mabel, and there's there's Billy, and they're not here yet. We can't start the service without them. I said, but we've been waiting here for half an hour. He said, we can't start. That was a powerful message to the congregation. And in the end, I stood up at the end and I said, what a powerful message it was, after we waited all that time, that how relationship orientated the Tongan community was compared to the Anglo-Saxon. The Anglo-Saxon community and the Aussies were time orientated, they were task orientated, they wanted to get things done. But the Islanders were relationship orientated. And this is the difference in the way of looking at the world. Do we look at the world in terms of what we do, how we go about life, how we achieve things? Or do we look at the world as relationships? I've got to connect with Jack. I've got to connect with Roger. I've got to connect with Phyllis. I've got to connect with all the different ones around in order to have relationship. That relationship time. In the Bible, Jesus talked about this with Mary and Martha. The importance of that relationship time. Because there happened to be a time when Jesus went to Martha's house for a meal. And Martha worked overtime. She obviously cooked up a storm and worked really hard. And she was saying, look how hard I'm working, I need some help. Jesus, can you tell Mary to come in and help me? Because Mary was sitting at Jesus' feet. And she wasn't moving. She wasn't moving at all. So we've got this scene of going on that Martha's getting quite frustrated and quite angry at Mary for not helping out. And she's feeling overloaded and overworked and doing all the tasks, everything she needs to do. And Mary's just spending her time in relationship with Jesus. And at the end of it, Jesus said, Mary has not done a bad thing. She's okay. She's in relationship. She's listening to my teaching. She's listening to me. She's with me in relationship. Where you're running around and bothering yourself about all these things that are so important to you, in the overall scheme of life, they're not that important. The important things are that relationship time. That relationship time with God, that relationship time with your children, that relationship time with people. We cannot sacrifice that relationship time for doing. It just doesn't work. The biblical precedence is spend time in relationship. Don't run away from that. It's really important. A really important thing. Now, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is, do you focus on your family's relationship time, or do you focus on the things you have to do? The running around the world, the planes to catch, the things to do, the bills to pay, all the stuff, which is all valid, it's all part of life, but you need to make a shift away from the doing to the relationship. The relationship has to be the key thing, not the doing thing. Sometimes we get them out of balance, and that's when things go wrong. Absolutely wrong. We have to ask that question. Do we spend time with God and our kids? Do we spend time talking, joking, just hanging out together? Do we take the warning of the cats in the cradle and the silver spoon song to heart? And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man from the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, we'll get together then. Son, we'll have a good time then. The promise of relationship doesn't cut it with kids. You're either with them or you're not. Don't simply promise to be with them. Don't make excuses. You're going to have to be there. And sometimes you've got to have enough guts to stand up and say, well, I need to have this relationship time. This is important. If I don't have this, I may grow up and not know my kids. I may not grow up and not know God. I may know no one. I may just be a human doing and have no relationships whatsoever. The important thing is, invest your time in relationships, as this is a core biblical principle. And Jesus says, oh Martha, don't be so troubled. Yourselves, don't be so troubled about the things to do in this world. Spend time in relationship with God and your kids. It's so important to spend that time. Spend time praying to God, spend time talking to your kids, spend time joking with your kids. It is just so important. Thank you for watching Raising Graceful Children this episode, and I hope it's blessed you. Thank you.